So this morning, a sales exec hits me as soon as I walk through the door without nearly enough caffeine because he has some questions about information I had sent over the prior day. Totally expected to, further that conversation. So what was kind of surprising is that I realized in this conversation that with that, senior leader, I was a strategic partner and not just the data person, because his questions weren't really about the data. They were how he could talk about it to his team, how to talk about it with his leadership, and ultimately things he could do to use the data ongoing, basically. I feel like the field has changed so much since I started. Just delivering a number was kind of the expectation back in the day, and then I'll know what to do with it. But really, framing the information that you pull for the business is the thing that makes you the strategic partner. And this matters for your career growth. It's visibility, it's trust. And if you want to be seen as that person and you want to be able to develop either your skills inside of your role and become more senior in that role, or to actually get promoted, those are key for that growth. So what helped me make that shift? I gave this a lot of thought because this is something that happens over time. Like, I start a role and then I'm a strategic partner. Like, it's not something that just happens as soon as I enter a role. So there is some level of trust and just time basically in order to get there. But to go a little deeper than that, I have to learn the business enough to deliver some kind of context on information. Because if I don't understand the business, I'm not able to communicate information in any other way. I'm just pulling numbers, here they are. On top of getting some level of business knowledge in the industry or department or organization that I'm supporting, you have to learn the language that they're accustomed to hearing. And I find this so interesting in that when I join a new organization, even just a different team within a company, you will see that they have different language about how they talk about things. Even if it's very similar, tangentially, whatever, they use different language to talk about things. So understanding the language for the person that you're going to communicate information to is another thing that will help you communicate the results better, basically. Lastly is building relationships. So all of these things really work hand in hand. It's like I'm learning the business, I'm learning how they talk about it. And the way I do that is through relationships. And it's literally one of those things that I market myself with, is that I'm really good at building relationships with other people, because I am not a subject matter expert in all the things that I'm asked to be a subject matter expert in. So by building and developing those relationships over time, I can get the knowledge that I need, I can get that context, and maintaining them, it's helping me stay on top of things that change as the organization moves through different things as well. So some actual steps that you can take to start developing this kind of strategic partner vibe is start with questions. Ask those questions. So, and it could just be as simple as somebody's coming at you with a request. You're going to ask, what's the context? What are you going to use it for? Who are you going to give it to? Just some basic questions to kind of help you frame, number one, how you're going to approach the problem. I just had this instance the other day where I thought I was getting a quick, side ping. Hey, can you tell me? And I had it, at hand, told them. And then they were changing up how they were pricing out basically a business case for a thing that we were trying to accomplish. I didn't realize that, because then it was like, once I found that out through a peer, it was like, let's temper that, and here's how I would approach it. So, and then my recommendation was actually taken, but I could have saved a little bit of steps if I had just taken a minute to ask that question myself just this week. And then whenever you're going to give the information, always give the context. So it's never about a number. And when I say context, I don't mean the context of how you pulled the information, unless that's a key as part of just making sure there's some comfort in the accuracy and things like that. But it's the context of this information that you do have, implications that it might have, and then any actions that can be taken. Like, kind of get creative in thinking about like what would next steps be now that they have that information. And sometimes breaking it down even on simple requests can be helpful. Even a bigger request, just never be about sending a number and checking off a box. And once you can move to thinking that and like exercising that process of actually seeing what the next steps would be, that'll be whenever you're starting to add in some of that value that folks are looking for. And then the hardest thing for me is speaking up. This can be in one-on-one conversations, when speaking up can mean like pushing back a little bit to say, like, not really to be combative, but more to help, get that context that you need. And it can look like speaking up in meetings and asking questions or adding your flavor. I hesitate to do this because I build, solid relationships. I feel like I can just have one-off conversations on the side. And sometimes that is appropriate, but more often than not, I should be saying these things in meetings with another audience. There's a couple of reasons for this, and it is visibility. Now, please don't be that person that is speaking up just for the sake of speaking up, unless you're just trying to get some practice here. But don't be that person, please. If you speak up with your thoughts, your questions, your feedback, whatever it is, because that's going to give visibility to you for the people in the room. And it can also help shift a conversation, because when you ask a question, it's almost like a little bit of an interrupt, and it helps the group think differently about a problem sometimes. So speaking up is like one of those things that, really helps you look like a partner, not just with an immediate audience, but with, something with a bigger audience. So again, this one's hard for me, but I really do feel like that's one of those things that can get you to that trusted partner idea faster. The field of analytics has totally changed since I started doing this, where it was like just, trying to figure out how to get information, getting it in a way that people could talk about it, and then, moving on to the next thing. But more and more people are looking for these partners. That's why I like strategy analyst. Like, what is that? It's a data analyst that can apply the information to a business. So if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe.